All right, so we're going to look now at the second way that you can simplify expressions when you are subtracting. So you recall the last lesson that we looked at was subtracting expressions, and we didn't have to do really anything. We just subtracted the second term from the first term. This time, though, we're going to look at using the distributive property to subtract these expressions. And so think back to when we were adding linear expressions and we were simplifying at the beginning. We would put a 1 in front of the parentheses. We're going to be doing that to this as well. So we put a 1 in front of this 6x plus 3. Nothing's going to change. But if you notice, we put a 1 in front of this 2x plus 2. Not only are we distributing a 1 to everything on the inside, we're going to distribute a negative 1 to everything on the inside. So we would do negative 1 times 2x and negative 1 times 2, which is what this step 1 says. That would give us 6x plus 3. Negative 1 times 2x doesn't change anything, but it does make that a minus 2x. And negative 1 times positive 2 would then become minus 2. And so that's our new expression. Once we can write that, we take out the parentheses, put the same shapes around like terms, and then we finish simplifying like normal. Okay, so I think if you want to keep everything the same that we've done so far, this would make a little more sense. We're just going to distribute a 1 to the first set of parentheses, a negative 1 to the second set of parentheses, and then we finish simplifying like we have been. So let's look at our first example here. So we'll put a 1 in front of the 6x plus 5, and we'll put a 1 in front of the 3x plus 1. So we do 1 times 6x and 1 times 5. That's going to get us 6x plus 5. But then, this is the key. It's negative 1 times 3x. Negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. And then negative 1 times 1 would give us negative 1. So that's our new expression. Without parentheses, which means we can circle the 6x, we'll circle the minus 3x, and then we will add our box in our plus 5 and our minus 1. Everything that's been circled, we write together, which is 6x and minus 3x. Everything that's been boxed in, we write together, which would be plus 5 and minus 1. We don't have to put the subtraction sign in between them because we've circled the sign that goes in front of all of these terms. So 6x minus 3x would give us 3x, and then positive 5 minus 1 would give us positive 4. So 3x plus 4 would be our final answer, our simplified expression there. So once again, first thing we're going to do on this next example is put a 1 in front of both sets of parentheses. So it's going to be 1 times 4x and 1 times 3, which wouldn't change anything. It's still 4x minus 3. And then this is going to be negative 1 times 2x, which is negative 2x, and negative 1 times positive 7, which would be negative 7. Now we have the expression written without parentheses. We can circle our 4x and circle our minus 2x, and then put a box around the minus 3, put a box around the minus 7. So everything has been circled, 4x and minus 2x. Everything that's been boxed in, which would be minus 3 and minus 7. And then we simplify like we have been. 4x minus 2x gives us 2x. Negative 3 and negative 7, add those together, you get negative 10. So that's going to give us 2x minus 10. 2x minus 10. All right, so this next one, notice that we don't have anything in front of the 5x minus 4, so we would put a 1 there. But you're not going to put a 1 in front of that second set of parentheses, because in front of the 2x plus 3, there is a 3. So this time, you're going to distribute a negative 3 to everything on the inside. So do that, pause the video, we'll see how you do. So the first thing that we want to do is distribute, because that's going to get rid of our parentheses. So 1 times 5x minus 4 is just going to stay as 5x minus 4. And then we're going to distribute negative 3 to the 2x, which would be negative 6x. And negative 3 times positive 3 would be negative 9. So that is our new expression. No parentheses. We can circle and box in everything. So we've got 5x and minus 6x. And then like terms would be minus 4 and minus 9. All right, so 5x and minus 6x would go together. And then minus 4 minus 9, those would go together. 5 minus 6 is negative 1, so negative 1x or negative x. Negative 4 and negative 9 is going to be minus or negative 13. So our answer would be negative 1x minus 13. Negative 1x minus 13. So just using the distributive property instead, like I said, I think this way is a little bit easier to understand. It follows the pattern that we've been talking about so far, a lot closer than what we did yesterday. So I would advise thinking about it this way. I think it's a little easier to do. Okay, one last one that we'll look at is a word problem. It says a hat store sells college and professional team hats for M months. The number of college hats sold is represented by that 6M plus 3. The number of professional hats sold is represented by 5M minus 2. We're going to write an expression to show how many more college hats were sold than professional. So one thing first to remember, the phrase how many more. Do you remember what operation that means we do? It says how many more. It would be subtraction. So we're going to take the college hats and subtract professional hats from them. Well, the number of college hats is 6M plus 3. Keep that in parentheses. Minus the number of professional hats is 5M minus 2. Well, notice that we are subtracting these two expressions. So what I would do is put a 1 in front of both of them and go ahead and distribute the 1 to 6M plus 3. It stays 6M plus 3. Negative 1 times 5M is minus 5M. Now notice, this is negative 1 times negative 2. Negative times a negative is going to be a positive 2. So anytime you are distributing a negative number and you're multiplying it by something that has a minus sign in front of it inside the parentheses, minus 1 times minus 2, the 2 minuses cancel out, you have plus 2. So 6M and minus 5M, those would go in a circle, and then plus 3, and now it's plus 2, those would be boxed in. 6M and minus 5M would be written together, and then plus 3 and plus 2, those would be written together. 6 minus 5 gives us 1M, and then 3 plus 2 would be plus 5. So M plus 5, 1M plus 5, that is our expression. Don't forget the last thing that it tells us to do. It says to evaluate that expression if M equals 10. So we would plug 10 in for M. 10 plus 5 would give us 15 hats. All right, so that is using the distributive property, distributing a negative 1 or negative whatever that's in front of the second set of parentheses, and then simplifying it that way. Now you've got two different ways to subtract those linear expressions. Use the one that works best for you. But like I said, I think this one will be a little bit easier because it's a little more similar to what we've talked about so far with simplifying expressions.